Watch and burn.
Hey everybody, so tonight I want to discuss Jesus Christ, I can't talk. I would like to discuss Philip Glass's score for the 1992 film Candyman. And it's interesting, because Candyman's a great movie. But see, the thing is, when you see Candyman for the first time, you see the cinematography and the direction and the performances, and Tony Todd is just so commanding, and he's so good looking, and he's so big, and he's so dangerous that he's just so captivating. And that fucking coat he's wearing, it's like the coolest coat ever. I had one that looked like it, sort of, but mine was closer to the one that Bane wore in The Dark Knight Rises, and I'm too short to pull off jackets that long, so I just looked kind of like a kid trying on his dad's jacket, and it just didn't work. Tried to be Candyman, but just wasn't going to fly for me. But yeah, I mean, aside from the performances, see, the thing you can't divorce yourself from is the score that accompanies the movie. And I know that Philip Glass, he agreed to do the score for this movie based on sort of a miscommunication of sorts, that he was under the impression that this was going to be some small sort of independent, more artistic endeavor, horror endeavor or whatever, and he felt taken advantage of because it turned out to be just sort of like another cheap slasher or whatever, in his opinion. But I never felt that. Without his score, Candyman was horror elevated. Candyman was bigger. It had a greater sense of scope, greater sense of purpose. The storytelling was a little more intelligent. It had its emotional intelligence was, well, no, I can't use the word intelligent twice. It has such an emotional impact, especially considering what is done to Helen, and it was all done to her just simply because she didn't believe. So I never felt that this movie was just another cheap slasher. It just had too much going for it. And then you toss in Glass's score, and I mean, this is Philip Glass. Satyagraha and Einstein on the Beach and Glassworks, and he did the score for The Hours and a billion other things. I mean, he has The Photographer. It's like one of his best releases. And he's done The Light. He's worked with David Bowie and Brian Eno with the Heroes, the Low Symphony, and what he did with his work with them through Heroes and that. And Koyaanisqatsi, of course. Like, Koyaanisqatsi for me is probably the biggest one. And so the fact that Philip Glass lent his compositions to this film, oh Christ, that is it. This is like, the Koyaanisqatsi of horror. This is the Aachen of the horror world because of Glass's score. It is so majestic. And like when you take tracks like Music Box, Helen's theme, It Was Always You, Helen, there's just so much to love. Music Box is so creepy and fun and catchy and memorable and gentle and sort of compassionate and terrifying all at the same time. Now, if you do remove the visuals of the film, like if somebody was to listen to this completely independent from the movie, they may not find tracks like Music Box to be all that eerie. But once your brain has connected the images, the visuals with the music, Music Box is terrifying. That's a really quiet and beautiful way to scare people. And Glass did that. And I mean, the fact that they filmed this movie in Cabrini Green. So this movie is legit. This movie is like there. That's like a rough area. It's so bad that they tore it down a little while after the film was made. So, I mean, everything about this movie is very real and it's very raw. But Glass's score gives it this sort of classical vibe, of course, that it elevates this film and it makes this film feel like art. Entertaining art, but art. Not some cheap slasher film, which this movie was never going to be regardless, just because of the cinematography alone. But with Glass's score married off with the cinematography and then the direction, and like I said earlier, in the performances, this is sort of like the opera of horror. And I just couldn't disagree more with Glass's feelings and opinions on this. Now, of course, they are his feelings and he's entitled to them, but no, Candyman is really amazing because of his score. And it's that simple. This score is awesome. The other thing too on the release that I'm talking about, he allowed them to recut his score for the first film for the second film. I don't like the Candyman sequels. They're just sort of like whatever. But I do like what they did with the recutting, especially with Slave Quarters. That was like my favorite part of the second score, which again, it's honest because of course it is the score, but Glass wasn't involved. He just gave them permission to go in and sort of, like I said, recut what he did with the first Candyman for the second Candyman. But yeah, look, I'm going to stop talking there. So thank you so much for hanging out with me for almost 6 minutes while I discussed Philip Glass's score for the 1992 film Candyman. Like always, if you like this review, don't forget to do something nice for somebody. But please, most importantly, don't forget that the world is actually a better place because you are in it. I'm going to go. Have a good night.